We were not told where we were going or how long the trip would last. Hungarian guards were replaced with German guards. After a few days of traveling without food or water, the train slowed down. I noticed a huge barbed wire enclosure, many barracks and buildings with large smokestacks. I could not understand why so many smokestacks were needed. None of us knew what the smokestacks were used for, but we soon found out. As the train proceeded deeper and deeper into the barbed wire complex, we all began to suspect that something was wrong. We were hoping to be taken to some city in Hungary, but this did not look like a city. The train came to a stop, and suddenly it felt like lightning had struck. We were in Auschwitz. After we got off the train at Auschwitz, we were made aware of the brutality of the Nazi guards. As soon as we were inside the gates of Auschwitz, the Nazis showed their viciousness. We saw able-bodied men going in one direction, able-bodied women in another direction, and children and older people in yet another direction. The suddenness of separation was a shock. No one had any warning. Mothers and fathers who tried to go after their children were severely beaten by the Nazis, and if they still resisted, were immediately shot. Children tried to run to their parents, but were taken back forcibly by the brutal guards. It was a scene that you need to see only once in a lifetime, and it remains engraved in your mind and heart forever. A few hundred feet from the train, I saw a Nazi officer flanked by guards, barking out orders, directing people to their lines. The flick of a hand, a person's fate was sealed. Who shall live and who shall die? We did not know why we were separated. We were told that we would be kept together and soon return home. The separation happened very fast. My mother went in one direction, my brother and sister in another. I did not even have a chance to say goodbye to them. Somehow, I was put with an adult group and managed to stay together with my father. As I stood awaiting the judgment of the Nazi officer, he asked me how old I was. I was about to say that I was 12. Something held me back. Maybe it was fear. So I did not say anything. My father, realizing what was happening, said that I was 14. The Nazi officer paused for a moment, looked me over, and motioned with his right arm, ordering me to go where the adults were going. Had I said that I was only 12 years old, I would have gone with the other children. The children and older people were put into a building and told to take a shower. Without warning, a poisonous gas was turned on. There was a brief struggle for air, then death. This was one of the many methods used to destroy the Jewish people. This is what millions of Jewish people faced day in and day out from 1941 to 1945. 5 of the most unbelievable years in the history of human cruelty. After the separation, we were stripped of all of our clothing and belongings. We were warned that if any valuables were found on us, we would be put to death. Shock and fear came over me. A while ago, I had been playing with other children, discussing school, preparing for my bar mitzvah. And now, here I was, struggling for survival in Auschwitz. As we moved deeper and deeper into the huge camp, we were confronted with high barbed wire fences and towers. Looking up at the guards, I kept asking myself, why are they doing this to us? We never harmed anyone. What will become of our family? Will I ever see my mother, my sister, and my brother again? We were not allowed near the gas chambers. I used to ask my father, what is that terrible smell? But he wouldn't tell me. People who had been in prison for some time told us what the Nazis had done with the children, elderly people. From Auschwitz, my father and I were put on a cattle train and taken to a concentration camp in Poland called Plaszow. Fortunately, I was able to stay with my father again. He worked at his profession as a tailor, and I worked as a bricklayer. I had never laid a brick or stone on a wall before, but I learned fast that the secret for survival was hard work. If you could not produce, you were sent to the gas chamber. Each of us had to build a 5-foot by 4-foot wall every day. If we did not complete the wall on time, we did not get any food. Many people died from starvation and torture because they could not complete the wall on time. The walls were built from stones mined from a rocky mountain. The laying of stones would not have been so bad, but we had to carry every stone by hand from the mine to the area where we were building the wall. It was fruitless work because we did not accomplish much. For us, though, it was not a question of accomplishment, but rather of living or dying. The concentration camp included many different nationalities and religions. There were Jews, Poles, Gypsies, Hungarians, and Russians. There were even criminals there who were serving time for some crime they had committed. I remember working with one of those criminals. One day, while we were mixing cement together, he told me that he was going to be released the following day. I couldn't believe it when I saw him leaving camp later, a free man. I was so envious. There was no time limit for my internment in the concentration camp. Only death would be the limit. Our only hope lay in being liberated by the Russians who were fighting on the Eastern Front. We used to hear the guns in the distance, but we didn't know which side was winning. When I got back from work one evening, and without any warning, I was suddenly dragged into a wire fence enclosure with other men. We were told that we would be shipped out that evening. I did not see my father, but somehow my father found me, and we were able to say goodbye through the fence.